All right. Hello, everyone. It's officially 1 o'clock on this beautiful Thursday. I see everyone joining in. So I might just wait like maybe one more minute to allow people to join in, but welcome. Okay, awesome. So, all right, welcome to my webinar. This one is titled Soracom Beam Deep Dive Webinar. I've been looking forward to this all week, so thank you so much for joining me. And also welcome to my home from where I am broadcasting this. Yeah, okay, let's go ahead and get started. So a little bit about me. My name is Brenna Belletti. I'm a solutions architect here at Soracom. You can find me on Twitter, LinkedIn, pretty much everywhere at Brenna Belletti. So go ahead and give me a follow. All right. Our agenda for today, I would like to kind of give you an overview of Soracom first, maybe talk a little bit about our services, and then go right into Soracom Beam, which is a really awesome service. And I'm excited to kind of demonstrate Beam to you. And then after that, I will go ahead and talk a little bit about our IoT consultation service that we have. And then I've reserved 15 minutes at the end to do Q&A. So go ahead and type in your questions and then I'll answer them at the end. I'm gonna go ahead and launch a quick poll right now just to get a sense of where everyone is in their projects. So you should see that on your screen. Okay. Awesome, thank you for answering that. I'm gonna go ahead and continue on while you guys answer. So a little bit about Soracom. We were started in Japan. We are a subsidiary of KDDI, a telecom company over in Japan. And our vision was first written in Japanese. So translated, it means that we want to connect people and things to generate harmony and resonance and make the world a better place to live. And the way that we approach this vision that we have is to be the most customer-centric company that connects people and things all over the world to accelerate innovations. And we cause disruptive changes with our technology to make the world a better place to live. So what this all means, and what our slogan, "You create, we connect," means is that we want to let you guys spend all of your time focusing on building these awesome IoT solutions and really take away those pain points that you might have in your projects. So how do we do this? Well, we've built an IoT platform for innovators so that you can focus on building your applications. And so what exactly is that IoT platform? So I want to talk a little bit about a traditional cellular network. What you normally would have is your device over here sending data. It sends data to a radio tower, and that radio tower forwards it on to a bunch of cellular gateways that cellular companies own. And these are really just big servers, big expensive servers that AT&T, T-Mobile, they own and manage and have at their facilities. And there's also one called a packet network. And what this server is responsible for is forwarding that data onto the internet. And so our founders had this idea that, well, if this is just a big server, could we put this on AWS? Could we put this in the cloud? And that's exactly what they were able to do, and what really sets us apart from other companies. So now the way that it works is your device will still send traffic to the radio tower and leverage the cellular core network that uh, these mobile carriers provide, but then that data will come to Soracom on AWS and before going to the internet. And this is a really important piece of Soracom and our infrastructure. And I want you to remember this when I'm talking about Soracom Beam later. So this gives us some really cool features, right? So you have your devices over here, like I mentioned, they're sending data to the base stations and to the mobile carrier. But then we have a direct connect line right to our Soracom AWS backend, right from the mobile carrier. So this basically sets up this giant LAN between your devices and our cloud, and you have this really nice, secure, closed channel and this private networking setup here. And so, one of the benefits of this is that because we're on AWS, we can do some really cool networking things like VPC peering with your AWS environment. Or, since we have access to that data traveling over the network before it even goes to the internet, we can do really cool things like translate your protocol or encrypt it before it traverses the public internet. So really cool. So Soracom services. So we have Soracom Air, which is the base for all of this. This is the connectivity. This is our actual SIM card that I have here. It looks like this with this awesome branding. But you'll see that this is really just one piece of this. So on top of this connectivity, you get these really awesome networking and application features. And, like I mentioned, Soracom is very customer centric. So most of these services actually come from talking to our customers, hearing about what their pain points are, working together to try and come up with a solution, and then reusing that solution and creating the service so that everyone can take advantage of it and make your projects a bit quicker and a bit faster to get set up. And then on top of our awesome networking and application services, we also, the ways that you can interact with these are through our user console. We have some open APIs you can use, a CLI, and some libraries. So it's really great. And, like I said in the beginning, the one we're going to focus on today is Soracom Beam, and that's our data transfer service. Okay. So let's back up. A typical IoT project. You might just be starting out on your project or have maybe thought about this in some way, but normally what happens is you have some IoT device somewhere, in this case, a Raspberry Pi, and you're trying to connect to some public endpoint somewhere, either in the cloud or your own server in your garage. But how do you do that? It has to go over the internet. Okay, so it's really just about trying to connect this IoT device to some public endpoint. And what are the steps for connecting that device to this endpoint? Well, one, you have to determine the endpoint to send data to, determine how to authenticate your device to that endpoint so that not just anyone can access it, and determine a secure protocol to use. So, is that HTTPS? Is that MQTTS? Some sort of secure way to send data over the public internet. But, this is really easy for one device, but if you are thinking about going to production and scaling out, this becomes a little bit more difficult once you have many devices. So I'm going to throw some how might we statements at you that I really encourage you to think about when you are getting started with your IoT project. So for the first one, how might we change this endpoint in the future? If you are maybe moving from a dev endpoint to a prod endpoint, normally this would require you to actually go to your IoT device and update that endpoint for each one. How might we deploy and manage our cryptographic keys on each device at scale? So the way that you normally would authenticate your device is by, if you're using AWS IoT, you generate X509 certificates and you have to upload them onto each device. Or if you're accessing an API and you have an API key, you also have to get that API key onto your device. But what if you wanted to rotate it on a monthly basis? If you wanted to change your API key, it's just for 100, 1,000, a million devices, it's going to be nearly impossible to manage to log into each device and change that. And then determining a secure protocol. So, when your data is sent over the internet, you want to make sure it's encrypted and not just open to the world. But using these more encrypted, fully fledged protocols is actually going to cause battery drain and data consumption on your device to generate. And I have a little graph to demonstrate that. So the choice for protocol used kind of has this impact where if you're using, like, for example, HTTPS, your CPU load and the actual traffic going over the network is going to be larger because of all of these client server handshakes that are going on. So if you could get down to something as simple as just sending a UDP packet, you're going to be using less CPU and less data traffic. And that's really important for constrained devices that are maybe running on battery, and you want to really, you want to allow that battery to last a really long time, right? And as well as cut down on the traffic that's going over the network. It's going to save you some money if you can reduce the amount of data you're sending back and forth. Okay, so how does Soracom Beam help us with these challenges? So here's the same diagram from before. We have our Raspberry Pi and we have the internet over here and our public endpoints. Let's see, what if we were to send our data to Soracom using one of these simpler protocols like HTTP or just UDP packets, because we know that this channel between your device and Soracom is secure, right? Because of our unique infrastructure that we have. And then once it's sent to Soracom, Soracom Beam can flip that small, simple protocol into a more fully fledged encrypted protocol. So this is really cool because you can take a very simple UDP packet coming from your device and wrap it up in an HTTPS packet to then send onto the internet into the public endpoint. It's really awesome. And some cool things that you get with that once, once your data is up here in the Soracom cloud, we've also added in some fun features where you can add metadata to this HTTPS request, like the device ID, the SIM ID, and the timestamp, so your devices don't have to worry about it at all. And that makes scaling really easy because all your device has to worry about is sending data to beam.soracom.io, and then everything else is managed in the cloud, managed in one place, and it becomes really easy to make these changes. So I'm going to go ahead and demonstrate how easy this is now. All right, how are we doing on time? Oops. See, my little Q&A thing is in the way. Okay, I'll move this down here. Okay, so here is the Soracom console. If you haven't seen this before, this is where you will manage all of your SIMs, see really cool information about your SIMs, and I have one down here called Webinar Demo that you can see is connected here in Seattle, which is really cool. And we also have this concept of grouping in our console. So you can have 1 to n SIMs in a group. and all of your configuration lives at that group level, which is really cool. So I'm gonna go ahead and add this sim to a new group here. Group. Let's call it webinar group. Okay. Change group. That'll update. And I want to go into this group. And you can see all these application services here that you have access to. And today we're going to be focusing on Soracom Beam. I will mention that we've also made it kind of simple. If you want to use multiple services, you can just send all your data to one unified endpoint, unified.soracom.io, and then we'll fork those requests to all of our services. So you're only sending data once, you don't have to repeat those requests. But to keep things simple, I'm just going to focus on Soracom Beam this time around. Okay, so I have, this SIM card is plugged into a Raspberry Pi for this demo. And let's say that I have found a public API online from the Cocktail DB, and in these times, I think we could all use a nice drink. So our goal is to get a random cocktail from this API. It requires HTTPS, but say that my Raspberry Pi can only do UDP. It's very constrained. I want to save data. Let's see, I want to, save battery on this device. So how can we do that? So let's see, these are all of our translations that we can do. I'm going to go ahead and pick UDP to HTTPS. And this is our configuration. This is our entry point into Soracom. We just send a UDP packet to beam.soracom.io and to this port. And we're going to convert it over to HTTPS. I have just written this all down to make things faster, but this is the host name of our endpoint and our path. And this is all we need. This is the HTTPS endpoint to get a random cocktail. And these are the header manipulations I touched upon. You can add in the IMSI and the IMEI. You can configure your custom headers here. We don't need it for this API because we authenticate just with this in the path here with this one. So that's okay. I'm going to go ahead and hit save. Okay, so that's enabled. We're good to go. Let's go back to our sim now. And I'm going to use another service that we have called Soracom Napter to gain on-demand remote access to this Raspberry Pi. So I'm going to change this to 2 hours. This will let me SSH into the Raspberry Pi over the cellular connection. And let me open up my terminal here. And I'm just going to change this username because mine is Pi not user. But you can see we've opened up an ephemeral port to access our Raspberry Pi that's at this IP address. And we'll give that a second. Yes. Okay, we're in. So I'm going to use a utility called netcat to send a UDP packet to beam.soracom.io. So you can imagine your device is somewhere sending this UDP packet up. And it's going to be port 23080. And V here just means verbose, and U is what is the UDP, otherwise it would send this TCP. So go ahead and send that, and we'll kind of just wait for this response to come back from the API. So here we go, we have our response. We have some sort of drink called Moringuito, which is hilarious. But you can see that all we did was send a UDP packet and we were able to hit that HTTPS endpoint. So awesome, okay. Say that now this endpoint is changed. Requirements have changed. How can we change this endpoint? Well, again, that's super easy. Let's go back to our group. Go back to Beam. And I'm just going to completely change this on you. So what I've created in AWS is I've used API Gateway, and I've created an endpoint that we can post to, and that just sends our data right to DynamoDB. And this is our table here. And you'll see that nothing's in here, so you know that I'm not lying to you. This data will actually get sent there. Okay, let's go back. Okay, this time we're going to change this URL. This is my API Gateway endpoint, and it's the prod environment, so our path here is just prod. And this endpoint actually does require authentication, and it uses an API key. So I'm going to add that to the header. This API key is a name, and the value I will also copy. And don't worry, I'm going to rotate this API key after the demo. So if you're worried about security, I will change it. Don't worry. Okay. And save. And I'm going to do the same netcat command again, but this time adding in our data that we want to send. All right. Let's say hello world. That's a favorite, right? And again, netcat, I'm going to skip the verbose message, but send a UDP packet to beam.soracom.io, and then same port, and let's send that off. We get a 200 message, and let's check our database. So go ahead and refresh, and there's our data. So, oh, that's so exciting. I'm so happy that that made it in. Oh, that's always so exciting. Hello world. Okay, cool. Yeah, so you can see how easy that was to just change that endpoint to get it set up. This is at the group level, so any SIMs in this group are going to have this endpoint configuration. So let's go back to our slides here. I'll present again. Okay, so let's recap everything that we just looked at. So yeah, I'll say this over and over again. I apologize, but all the configuration and security credentials live on the cloud and at the group level. So all of your changes are in the cloud. Anytime you're working at the edge, changes that you make on your edge devices, you can think of those as being really expensive, really difficult. Anytime you can make changes in the cloud, that's going to be a bit more inexpensive and a bit easier for you. Okay. Again, you can make changes quickly without needing to touch your device. You can choose these lightweight protocols over the cellular connection to reduce battery drain on your device, as well as reduce data consumption, which is going to save you some money. So that small UDP packet is going to be a lot cheaper than sending out an HTTPS request that has a lot of back and forth traffic. And you can integrate constrained devices that can't do these fully fledged protocols. So I know I was using Raspberry Pi this time around, but some devices, some tiny microcontrollers, some tiny sensors out in the field can't even encrypt their data. So this is one way of getting that data across in a secure way. And one thing that I just love is that if your device does become compromised and somebody, say, hacks into your Raspberry Pi or something, your endpoint and your credentials are not exposed to that malicious person. So everything's in the cloud, away from your devices. Okay, let's see. And so revisiting those pain points and these how might we's, can we change this endpoint in the future for all millions of our devices? Yes, it would literally just be in that one place, super easy. Can we manage our cryptographic keys and our API keys at scale? Yes, again, exactly. One simple change at that group level. And, can we choose a secure way to send this data, but use a simpler protocol? And yes, Soracom Beam will definitely help with all these pain points in your project. An example, a case study of this, we had a client called Will, and they make these personal mobility devices. And when they were just starting out with this project, they would deploy these devices to their customers. And anytime they wanted to make a change to their backend servers, they would have to either go to their customers and make changes on the device or somehow coach their clients through making these software changes, which was really a pain and slowed down their development cycle. But by using Soracom PM, like I mentioned, they were able to make all of the configuration through the cloud, through our Soracom backend, and really speed up that development cycle. And also a benefit to that was they were able to send simple UDP packets from this mobility device up to Soracom, and that actually reduced the battery consumption on their device by more than 30%, which was a huge, huge benefit for them because, these are rechargeable. Somebody has to actually recharge it all the time. Okay, cool. And just a little bit more about, the services that Soracom provides. We do have a completely free IoT consultation service. So if, depending, no matter what stage in your project you're at, feel free to reach out to us to sign up for this consultation. Again, it's completely free. We just love hearing about IoT. We love working with IoT, and we would, just be thrilled to help you with your project challenges. And I did forget to mention this at the beginning, but all of this is being recorded and will be provided to you after. So don't worry about that. Okay. So I went a little fast, but it's 1:27. I think we can switch over to the Q&A now. Let's see. Got quite a few questions here, so let's go ahead and check these out. I think I have to minimize this window to be able to see it. Okay. Let's see. Okay, so the first question, what hardware is compatible with Soracom? So that's a good question. We are hardware agnostic, as long as your device works with our cellular partners in your country and the bands that they require, it'll work. And we can always feel free to reach out to us. We can help you pick out a suitable hardware, or we can introduce you to one of our partners to get you set up. We also, on our store, sell these really great kits for getting started, which is a Raspberry Pi, and it comes with this Huawei modem, which you can plug in, and that'll come bundled with our Soracom card, so you can just get set up really quickly. It's really fun to play around with. Okay. What if my cloud backend is not hosted on AWS, but on Azure or Google? Yes, absolutely. Super simple to, we're also cloud agnostic. You could send this data to any backend anywhere. Even if you had your own server set up in your garage, you could absolutely use that as well. Let's see. Where can I find dev docs? Yeah, so if you're just getting started with Soracom, go ahead and check out our developer docs, which are really useful, and I've used them to get set up with. So you can just find those on our website. Let's see if I'm. Yeah, so another question about if the Soracom SIM cards are compatible with most IoT devices on the Azure website. I haven't looked at the Azure website, but I'm sure that as long as they, again, support our cellular bands, that they should be compatible, but I'd be happy to take a look at them with you to find out more, to really figure out which one would be suitable for your project also. What carriers and countries do you support? That's a really good question. We are a global company, which is really cool. We support 130 carriers over 200 countries worldwide. And we continue to grow, so it's so hard for me to remember that number, but pretty much everywhere. Yeah, lots of questions about which clouds we support. We have integrations with uh, with all clouds, so it's super simple to get set up. And how does pricing work? It's completely pay-as-you-go model, so you pay for what you consume, which is really scalable. It allows you to, when you're in your development phase, you're not investing a lot up front. You really just pay for the data you consume and however many SIM cards you have, and it's really inexpensive, really easy to, you always kind of know how much you're spending. Let's see what else. Okay. Okay. So I'm just reading this. Yeah, okay. So this question is about if you did want your device to have its own certificate. And yes, I didn't really talk about that in this instance, but for example, if you were using MQTT and you wanted your device to look like it had its own certificate, you can absolutely configure that in Soracom Beam. And we actually have a getting started guide for that in our developer docs. And so what you would do is same concept, your device is still just sending data to Beam, but then once it gets there, we use that unique SIM ID to match it with its certificates to then forward on to AWS IoT or Google or Azure. And then we also have another service called Krypton. So if you really also wanted those certificates on your device so that they could just themselves make requests to endpoints, Krypton will allow your device to request certificates from Soracom Krypton. And Krypton will negotiate with AWS or to get those certificates and get them onto the device. So there's no human interaction, again, making this as simple as possible. And then your device can use those certificates to then make requests out. So I hope that answers your question. Long story short, yes, that is doable. Okay. Okay, and then where can I purchase SIM cards? That's a really good question. The easiest way to do it is going to be through our Soracom console. So I would really encourage you to sign up for an account on our console. Go to this orders button up here and place your order through here, because then your SIM cards are automatically populated into the console like this. And you don't even have to put them in manually. So that's also a really nice feature if you're thinking about deploying, thousands or millions of SIMs. They're just automatically put in here. But if you're an Amazon Prime member, we also sell our SIM cards on Amazon, as well as our own internal store at soracom.io. Okay, guys. Yeah, so buying SIM cards in bulk, do you still charge $5 a SIM? So that's a really good question. Definitely once you're scaling out to larger quantities, we can offer some different pricing options for you. So definitely reach out to us and we'll kind of go over your use case and help you with the pricing, help you with your pricing questions. Cool, what else, guys? We have a little bit of time left, so I'm happy to keep answering your questions. I forgot that there's these little buttons here that I can say like, oh, I'm gonna answer your question live. So I have been forgetting to do that. So sorry. Um, Going through these. Okay. There's one question here about, is Soracom an MVNO? So an MVNO is a mobile virtual network operator versus an MNO, which is an MNO is a mobile network operator like AT&T or T-Mobile. And then an MVNO is a company that leases, say, AT&T's cellular network to resell it. And the answer to this question, are we an MVNO, is kind of mixed. So yes, we work with AT&T and T-Mobile and other carriers around the world to kind of lease their infrastructure. But like I mentioned in the beginning, we have also built a core piece of that infrastructure in AWS. So we're in a way almost a mixture between an MVNO and an MNO. Okay, so yeah, I'm gonna pull up our website. There's a good question here. Also, just to give you some familiarity with where you can find things on our website. Soracom.io, super simple. All of our developer docs, like I mentioned, are here in this developers button. You can find more information about pricing here in our store, so you can check out what we have for sale here. As well as, there is, I think I have to scroll to the bottom here. All these windows open so I can see your questions. Okay, you know how I usually do this? I normally search case studies. This is the page I'm looking for. So there's a question about going through other case studies. And this is a really great resource. Okay, soracom.io/customers. Super simple. You can read through all of our other case studies here. This one I was reading yesterday because it just came out about agriculture. So if you're curious about reading another case study, maybe one that's a bit more similar to your project, and to hear about how somebody else might have solved this, you can check them out here. You know, we have connected cows and connected bees, connected dogs. So, you know, so many use cases out here. There's the will one that I mentioned. Yeah, so definitely check that out. Okay, let's see. Okay. Some of these questions are a bit more specific to your use case, and I want to give you a really full answer. So I think I'm going to save some of these to follow up after with you directly, if that's okay with you guys. Yeah, okay. Any other questions, guys, that I can answer? We've got maybe a few minutes left, so if you, maybe I just explained everything really well. That sometimes happens too. No, I'm just kidding. Oh, okay. Well, yeah. Thank you guys so much for joining me. This has been so much fun. We are going to send out a survey after this. So if you could fill that out, that would help me out a lot. And I can also get a sense of maybe what worked, what didn't work, and what you would like to hear about in the next webinar. So yeah, okay, let's go back to Thursday. Thank you guys all again so much, and take care. And if you had more specific questions, I will follow up with you about them. So don't worry, I have them. All right, guys. Well, do I end this? That's the question. Okay. Bye, everyone. Thank you.